Hey, welcome to Chiropractic Lifestyle Revolution. We are creating a revolution with great leaders in the profession that bring passion, purpose, conviction, heartfelt desire to create more chiropractic patients living the lifestyle of chiropractic, because now is our time. And I'm thrilled to hang out with a friend of mine, great friend, brother, Dr. Chris Zaino. We've known each other for years, man. You've done amazing things. You do great things and create great things. And how it is, man, a powerful spirit. We can create great things. We can
Yeah.
crash and burn in flames. Things again, right? It's like nothing's in the middle, man. We're either
Yeah.
changing the world or going down in flames. One of the
Yeah.
two. I've been there a few times.
Right, right. Well, no, it makes you appreciate stuff a lot more.
Oh yeah, it
So,
does.
so I believe today we're going to talk about, focus. I think we're talking about uh the conviction in the voice versus just saying the words and connecting with people on a totally different level. So kind of like what sparked this up is now I'm rebuilding the practice. So I went through some stuff. I was the prodigal son. I had so much momentum. I didn't realize like I had my momentum lasted me years. I had a momentum of lifestyle patients, and I took my foot off the gas, but it lasted years. That was the illusion of it. And then when I took off and just traveled a lot more, like I realized, okay, the thing, it sunk pretty good and I'm pulling into my savings. So yeah, so it's a great place to be in. So we had some contrast. So now I'm like, okay, then I just had to get to the point where I had to choose, okay, now it's time to build the practice again. And then it's like and reinstitute my purpose. So my goal is to get to 1,000 a week again and not be financially free, the whole thing, because it sucks. I'm just in a contrasting time. But I went to see Sylvester Stallone in California in December, and he goes, "You know what? Everybody loves a comeback story, and this is my comeback story." But the atmosphere was a little bit different, and I was talking to Dr. Fred, and I think like the phone itself became not part of the it's not part of the problem. It's part of the change that I had to think about and work around. I was like, am I going to do dinners again? Am I going to do this again? There's digital marketing, and I wasn't happy with the digital marketing. So I was like blaming a lot of the circumstances. And really, the world I live in is just me pushed out, right? So it's like, okay, what am I not seeing, or what do I need to recommit to be able to connect on people at a whole new level? So I was just telling Dr. Fred some of the things that, due to being somewhat in a corner and becoming resourceful, things that showed a lot of promise, and maybe we could share those things with you today. And it's your choice to incorporate them.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, to come back now, it's so fascinating. Your story is fascinating because, hey, I think you were up to 2,600. Like you had one of the biggest
Yeah.
practices in the nation or in history, right? And so now it's like, wow, you're coming back, but the world is different, and
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah. And
have to adapt.
what sucks is that 2600, like, why was I why was I looking for a greener grass? Like it's like I would totally like to go back. Yes. Like I was just there was I just thought I just needed change and excitement and stuff like that. Because the cool thing with 2,600 a week, it was the success formula. We had it so dialed in, it was extremely mundane, extremely unsexy, and extremely like it's like hit play, bop, bop, bop. It was like the same thing. So I don't know if I got bored and or I wanted to like throw a wrench in the thing to create some type of excitement. But um yeah, man, I don't know what I was thinking then. But I mean, it was just part of me evolving. And it was I don't resent it all, but it's like now to bring it back. Yeah, okay, now I want to bring it back, and it's okay. Things are slightly different, and uh
Well,
I
can
just
I
got I
comment on that real quick?
yeah, yeah,
Because this is human behavior. I mean,
right, right, right,
I certainly wasn't near 2,600. I mean, I was over 700, but it was like, and my goal is 1,000. But like with you, it's so certain, and you just hit play, and you're
yeah,
a person that has to create. It's almost like
right.
there's no more creating. I already created it.
Yeah.
And so what will, and I'm not saying you did this, but what will people do? They will throw a wrench in it. They will freaking destroy it, or
Yeah.
they find the next purpose,
Hmm.
which is you moved on to a whole nother purpose. Now, if
Right.
I share a little bit about your personal life, I mean, you got married at a young age, you became a dad, you did what you're supposed to
Yeah.
do, and it's like I never got to experience who Chris is.
Yeah, yeah.
You just became Dr. Chris, husband, father, provider, purpose driven. And now you get to experience, wow, man, I see this from a whole different perspective. And
Uh-huh.
you really got to know more about Chris.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And he's got a really good fun side to him. Yeah, had a blast. And um, it all led me back to, but here's the thing, like I saw, I made money different other places, made certain investments, and the things that I realized, I got to a point where a lot of these things I had no control over, even a little control over. So at least in the practice, I was able to dictate it. So I was winning and losing on somebody else's time. And I didn't like that feeling. So when it comes down, I was like, nothing was as good as practice. But at front, I was like, what is going to, man, I just got to get that. I mean, where's the spark going to come back? Like, I need this like thing, that thing to come back. And, I mean, I went through a quite bit of a journey. And I just think when you got stripped of everything, it was a real good thing to see gratefulness. We talked about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago that, I experienced a life when money was had no value. I was in a place where you had no name and your only value was your skill. And I realized, wow, here's my skills. And it was just a very beautiful thing to see, like, I have this skill. And it just kind of reminded you, and sometimes everything has to be paused for a second and clear to be like, hey, dude, like your value is not only who you are as a child of God, but like this is the skill you have. And I was like, wow. So I was able to like hone in on what were my skills or my unique propositions of value to the world. And I really saw how I got away from it. My skill wasn't just to put money into an investment. It was like, wow, I could speak, I could adjust, I could do these things. And I look back, I'm like, well, why did I get so angry at chiropractors and people? Like, what was my deal? And because it was so focused on me, like I saw things in my thoughts created. For instance, 2,800 a week, great practice. Well, when I was down to 1,700 a week, people might be like, that's ridiculous practice. But to me, I lost 900. Like that was like, it would be like your savings being cut in half. Like, so I saw that as a massive failure. I just focused on the failure. I got mad at the people, think it was the people's reason, and I created a self-fulfilling prophecy. I felt like I used to say, I feel like a boxer who peaked. That was another bullshit thing. Like boxers do peak, yeah, but I'm not a boxer. I could do chiropractic till I'm 100, right? So it's like I just was believing these programs, and I think because I focused on that program with repetition, it became part of my paradigm, and it created exactly what that paradigm was. Now, how do you destroy a paradigm, Fred? You had told me spaced repetition and trauma. Like so, trauma, like when there's a traumatic event, it'll pop you out of it. But to read to correct that subconscious program that's a lie or an illusion, it was so for me it was a bit of a trauma to like wake me up and like make me see things again, to really realize, okay, I got it. Like this was all an illusion. I was creating this thing. That's why I went back into bodybuilding. Like you said, I needed to grow and I needed to evolve. So instead of cheating on my spouse or getting into drugs and alcohol and strippers, I'll bodybuild again, right? So it's like I was looking, like, yeah, I was looking for that thing to grow in because my practice wasn't growing, and that was my illusion. And so I had to grow and expand somewhere. So I was really serious because nothing, it's man, it felt like, my illusion of winning. Like, so for me, I guess a certain volume meant that I was winning. And so I was attaching happiness, satisfaction to a end result, Fred, that once that started to change because I had anchored to that, I started I started becoming depressed or frustrated, and I would push hard and it would get lower. Like I started chasing it, and you know what happens when you chase something. So um, I didn't like going to work every day, reminding myself of this illusion I thought. So that's whether you
I'd
call
say
it
something
burnout.
real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because so many people do this. I mean, we talk to obviously
yeah.
chiropractors all the time, but they base their identity. We're taught this when we're young on what we do
Right,
rather than who you are. Like you base your significance on what you do, like that practice. So now you're
right.
1,700, you feel like a failure. because you were
Yeah,
1100 more, or your bank account, or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever it
Whatever.
is.
Right,
And then also there's people that they reach this level of success, and you said this key word, you had to grow in some ways. Well, that's a human need. It's
right.
a fifth human need. So people reach a level of success, and this is what chiropractic revolution is about, is the greatest hindrance for fulfilling your purpose is success, because you get comfortable, you get certain, you get in a rut, you have all this stuff, but you don't feel healthy, you don't feel well on the inside. And then you
Yeah,
wonder why you're not grateful. Why? Because you're supposed to grow, and that's the difference with purpose.
right.
So,
No, you know, so that was just that thing of it. And man, I mean, it sucked. So then you do that, and then you go through things, and I just got to a real humbled out point, which was great, and just kind of reconnect to those things. I was like, okay, it's time to go back in there, and it doesn't happen overnight. So now you're in the faith mode. It's like you have to make a decision. Like it's either shut the practice or make it successful. So no one likes those decisions, but for some reason it puts you in something where you have to make a decision. And then the purpose comes back from that. So it's like, okay, so what was my success recipe? Like I listened to audios, I studied, like I had to get back. What were my habits? So that was what we talked about last time. So when you're under stress, you default to the habits that you have created, and you're habitual in something. So those habits usually come out. So all those habits, when I was in kind of a bad place, I defaulted to those skills and habits. And so I was like, oh, so what were the habits that, allowed me to be successful? And you're right, the habits weren't how many I could adjust in a week. They were all um, personally developing habits, spiritual aligning habits, listening to the principle of chiropractic, which, reassure, like reconfirming my conviction in the principle. Because the principle is just not a health principle. It's a little like, it's a universal, it's like the way you could see life. So, it's amazing how you like slipping and checking how slowly I started veering off that. And then what I noticed, Fred, though, when I went back to the practice and I said the same words, I spoke the same words, we did the same systems, it just wasn't moving. And because then I realized, like, oh man, it's a spiritless system. It didn't have the purpose behind it. So the words look the same, but it just didn't have the impact. And still you started caring. But I realized I had so much resentment towards the doctors or the chiropractors or the people that it's like I had a little all this illusion. Really, I realized that basically two things, Fred. I was mad about something, but for the wrong for a different reason that I thought I was mad. And then the reason why I was mad, Fred, because I was seeing something that wasn't really there. You follow what I'm saying? So
oh,
I was mad for a reason other than what I thought I was mad for, because I didn't know the truth. And I was also mad because I was seeing something that wasn't really there. And I think that was it. But this is what we do to ourselves, because if I'm not seeing something in love, it's an illusion. Like it's all an illusion. I made it up. Like so the things I see aren't really real because the only thing that's real is love. So if I was seeing it out of anything else, it wasn't real. And I realized, like, man, I'm feel this way. I have this emotion because I'm making something up in my head that's not really there. And that still wasn't good enough, Fred. Until like I said, I had a
although it
little
is absolutely brilliant and
right,
absolutely the absolute divine truth,
right.
like
So
say, well, it's not good enough. So then what?
so then when I was in the Mexican prison for 21 days, then that was a real like not a punishment, but you had a lot of time to think. And like, it was nice that I only had one pair of clothes that couldn't be washed. It was nice that I didn't have anything. And then it was just like, it was like we talked about focus, right? So I didn't have much to focus on, right? So it kind of limited down to what are the raw qualities? What is the raw things? And all along those things were there because you had to get to a loving point because otherwise you go crazy, you get scared. So I'm like, so it was just really like I don't feel I just it sucks that I had to go through all that charge, but it was something that now I came back and I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's build this thing back up. And you're right, it was very fulfilling. Like like you're right, I made a lot of money and other things. I lost a lot of money, and I never had that fulfillment factor of seeing someone's life change. Um, but I think something in the future, Fred, like as I build this back up again, I think our mental and spiritual health is crucial. And that might be something like you got, I know you have healed and everything like that, but now I really see the even more the need for healed because it's something where like I just didn't have a brother. I know I had you and but I didn't reach out. I didn't reach out to for me personally, men to talk to. And because I try to introspect and do my own therapy. And sometimes you just need a good brother to speak, talk to. So I realized those things and I just because my ego just took over. But you know, that's where we're at now. So we're back to my promise to you is I will hit 1,000 a week, and I'll never feel like this again. It's like
Yeah, that's
I'll
awesome.
know.
I think leaders are like that. We can handle ourselves because we are, and you do have so much spiritual intelligence anyway. I feel like that experience you had, sometimes not that everything literally gets physically stripped away, but when we feel like, man, you're right down to the core. I really need to
Huh.
establish who I am right now, right?
Well, yeah,
All this, we created all that, and you have come back through this. I feel like, not to say that you're different, but you have a maturity that's even and a brilliance that's even a higher level than you were before.
I feel calmer, but it's so weird. And maybe you could help speak to me. I feel calm, even though there's like feels like chaos is going on in the inside. I just mean like what else? Like you can't, what else are you gonna throw at me? It's like I'm calm to it versus I would let the emotional, I would kind of ride the emotional waves and I would use it. Remember, I used to told you I used to use fear or anger to like motivate, right? So, and that gets things going. It's better than indifference and apathy.
Right.
But
It's not
I mean,
sustainable.
yeah, it's not sustainable. So it's like, I don't want a foundation. So it's like, okay, I just can't get, I just, knowing keeping your shit together and keeping calm and being quiet. And sometimes, because I force things and speak. I mean, I'd like to hear your take on this. I think a lot of us doctors in the profession, like we tend to get impatient and force stuff. And sometimes we force stuff and it just doesn't work out. Or because then the part of it you feel like, well, am I not putting enough action in? So there's that, what's the fine line do you feel to listen, I'm called to action versus the forcing?
Well, we go over this in the heal thing and exercise
Yeah,
love yourself and others, and that's understanding your superpowers.
yeah,
So you look at a person that's determined. Every gift has another side. What's the other side? You're impatient. What's one of our core values? We don't care about physical pain. If you say carry that boulder uphill, we'll pick up a
yeah,
fucking building and we'll run it up that hill,
yeah.
and that becomes the problem because then we break down, right? And then things come about. Well, what do I have to do? What do I have to do
Mhm.
rather than who I am? And then when
Right.
you understand your power, and then as you get older, you learn I can command the rock to roll uphill. I don't have to carry it. I'm still working on the
No,
commanding part,
right.
but it's like when you look at, okay, you have more internal peace. It doesn't matter what else you're gonna throw at me. And what I hear from that is God has something even way bigger, because when you're at peace, regardless of what's going on in the world, and we can see where the world is going,
Mhm.
that we're going to do something really big, that we're going to need that piece is how we're going to get there, and something really big is coming.
No, absolutely. And I told you, like, I learned that because each day there was like a new clue, like for people to listen. So I was in Mexican jail for 21 days and, I had so it was like I had no communication with the outside, didn't speak the language. And I didn't even know if anybody was there. I didn't even know if Monique was like, I had to trust that she and everybody on the outside were batting for my behalf. So I had no control, couldn't work. Fred, I couldn't work. I couldn't effort. I
Nothing you
couldn't.
could do.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
Nothing. But sure enough, every day there'd be a little clue. Like, so I would wait the whole day. And sometimes, Fred, I waited the whole day expectantly for the one little clue. Like I said, someone left the ink from a pen. The next day, someone left a little piece of cardboard. So in 2 days, that was a long fucking time. I was able to secure a pen and something to write on. So, like, where I was like, give me a pen and piece of paper, right? No, I had to patiently wait, like every day, a little bit of a clue, a little bit of a clue. So I realized like, but it was happening, it was working, right? I couldn't control it. I couldn't command it. They wouldn't do anything. I didn't speak the language. So it's like, but it was working out, but not necessarily my time, but it worked out in perfection. And I had to trust people. Like, so like you're like, you always talk about trusting the process. I realized, man, did I have trust issues? I didn't think I did. I had a lot of trust issues because me being a doer, right? I'll do it because I only trust myself. I would micromanage. So I learned that I had trust issues and patience, those two things, but like things still worked out, but you physically couldn't do anything. So that was kind of a cool thing. I was like, wow, like, but Fred, how am I going to experience? Like, there was no way I was going to practice that in real life. Like, if you told me, Chris, I want you to just sit down and meditate for 3 days, of course I wouldn't have done that, but it's like, but I physically had to experience that to see, like, hey, even without you doing, you're still taken care of. And that was now when we talk about a worthiness thing. I was like, wow, like, do I not receive that from myself? So I really saw, like, I was very grateful and very humbled, and like it was a self-love thing, a worthiness thing that I'm wow, I am deserving of that. And it was just a lot of wonderful love examples, a lot of love teaching, where people came, unconditional love examples. And I realized, wow, so it always comes back to me. It's like love for myself. I'm trying to control everything. So that, just like you talked about, going into like that calmness and stillness, and because all that, what I just mentioned, micromanaging, forcing, all that stuff, that zero didn't show faith, right? So like the reason why I'm impatient, Fred, is because I am fearful it will not happen. The reason why I micromanage is because I'm fearful it's not good. So my impatience and micromanage was really a tremendous lack of faith, because I feared things wouldn't happen, or uh, if I didn't force it, then it wouldn't have. So I was afraid of it not happening. So here, how could I receive this thing when I'm living in fear, or sending out that vibration of fear and impatience that it wouldn't happen?
You said something so quickly and so brilliantly that I'm gonna have to paraphrase. And you said basically, when I do nothing, I'm still taken care of.
Right.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is life changing for people, because we've all done that, right? I mean, we cling to certainty. That's why we do it, because I know I can do it. I know I can push myself. I know I can do this.
Yeah.
I can push through the pain. I can do all this. And then you find out your back hurts, your shoulder hurts. You think it's a weight training injury, but it's really not. It's you shouldering the world.
Hmm.
It's the world crushing your low back. I mean, we've all had these
Yeah.
problems, right? It's not sustainable. And I talked about this in a healed event the other day, where your physical body will not tolerate your lack of spiritual evolution.
Very nice.
If
Yeah.
you ignore your spiritual evolution, your physical body won't make it. And so we've run into that before,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's a lot of joint injuries. So, go ahead.
So that was a perfect example of just what you said. So, Stephen, to like reassure what healed and everything's about, like, no, like, of course like, you just done, you appreciate it on different levels. And then when you're kind of shown something, you're like, oh, like, like you become more aware, because we're all in ignorance to a certain point, and the more awareness that we come to about, then you're like, oh, okay. So that awareness comes in. So I see that, just not just for, of course, it's for the world, but even in the profession, I see it as a huge thing, because looking back, it's like, if I was able to have awareness of this, true awareness, not just on a Gnostic level, but like a true awareness, I think I think the journey would have been more purposeful versus a little bit up and down. But I mean, I love everything I've been through. But um, yeah, no, I totally appreciate, like, yeah, because I was the first to read the book, right, over time, and
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
got the copy that I printed out. And it's just like, but like, that's something when you get back to, it's like, okay, okay, I see. Because it's a heavy book, because we're dealing in such metaphysical, actually, you're dealing with the most basic of spiritual laws. It really is basic, but it's that educated brain that just wants to like make it difficult. So
That's
for me, it was receiving, it's me receiving, it's the receiving, it's a spiritual, like, receiving. So I don't know why I feel I'm not worth, like, that's the worthiness, that's this, like, it's just like, can you receive, if we could just receive it, then like I said, I had to receive it sitting there. I had to just say, I can't do anything, Fred. So I was like, that was the ego death. I can't do anything. Shit. And like I can't do anything. And then I was absolutely taken care of. Absolutely taken care of.
Fascinating, because we teach a part that I can't quote the Bible verse,
Yeah.
but it's out of also the success
Yeah.
book. John Randolph Price says, I myself can do nothing, but
Yeah.
with God, I can do all things, right? Or with Christ. That's why I had in
Yeah.
my arm, right? With God, all things are possible, to remind myself that. And sometimes I sit there when I feel overwhelmed, God do this, God do this. I'm like, I myself can do nothing. But when God moves in front of me, I can, then we can create miracles. Like God can create miracles through me.
Yeah.
I just have to follow his will.
Another thing, Fred, we even logically know, like we don't have to know the how, right? It's none of our business sometimes. And if we knew the how, we already had it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just that default of I just want to know how. So sometimes when you're assessing something and you can't see the how, then that again, it's such that it's that conscious battle. I think a lot of us want to know how. How can I reach a new money? Like the how, right? And so the thing is, like they're looking for the how, and sometimes that is the big thing that kind of gets in the way of us doing it. Because again, getting that C-type goal, that goal where you have no idea on how you're going to do it, and it just requiring your vision on it, your purpose and commitment to it, even though you don't know how it's going to happen, and feeling as if the wish was fulfilled. Like that's so kind of talk a little about that, Fred, where like like we're sitting there, we don't know the how, we don't see how to cross the gap. So how are we able to get in the spirit of the thing to be able to start being drawn to those goals and having faith, knowing like, here's the vision God gave me. He gave me the vision because it's my vision. It's my right. He gave it to me. He didn't give it to that person. So it's in me. I have that desire. That desire came from my spirit, but I have no damn clue how. Because then when you start thinking about the how, the educated mind just makes like it starts taking the inspiration away. So how would you advise someone saying, Lynn, when you have that inspired purpose and vision, how to keep on that vision, even if we do not know the how in the moment?
Well, one, read the law of detachment, right? That's
Right.
presence, because we get so anxious about the
Right.
future that we step into the field of all possibility. The second thing, and this is something I read a while ago, you look at high level, I mean, really high level, like Richard Branson level.
Yeah.
How do they create? They create through their intuition. So what do? They meditate. Like, if, and that's, I guess, Richard, I don't know him personally, that, he creates in his hammock at the beach. When someone's got to be creative, what do? They meditate. And you hear things like people say you should meditate for 20 minutes. And the bigger your to-do list, then you should meditate for 2 hours. So people say, well, I don't have 20 minutes. Well, how big is your to-do list? You're so busy doing that you forget to connect with your spirit. And if
Right.
you want to get into chakras, right, your third eye chakra connects you with intuition. But that's chiropractic principle, universal intelligence, we're an innate intelligence, universal intelligence moving through you. You will know how. So how do I do it? I quiet my mind, use my breath. I go into meditation. I ask an intelligent question, not just God, how do I do this? Because
Hmm.
that's a confusing answer.
Yeah.
But I would say, God, thank you for showing me. Thank you, what you said, that this is a desire in my heart. Thank you that this is my calling that only I'm supposed to do. And you're going to show me how. Thank you for showing me the path. And then I'll decide what's one thing I can do today. Just show me what I have to do today.
Right.
If I can do that today, I'm not going to worry about tomorrow.
I was reading right here that Neville, like he says, when you were in that state before dreaming, you would tell the spirit, thank you for showing me the issue is already solved. That
Yeah.
was like, thank you for showing me the issue is already solved. And that was like right in that theta wave, right? Thank you for showing me the issue is already solved. Just tell like some kind you like you already you showed me the issue is already solved.
Yeah. Well, that's how chiropractic lifestyle revolution.
Mhm.
So I'm like, God, you got to show me, man. We see where the world is going. It's not going in a good place. There's more viruses, vaccination, blah, 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 all this crap coming out that, FDA has already approved. They're not telling the general public, la, la, la. And so then it's like, how do we get more chiropractors on purpose, preaching the principle of creating lifestyle people? And Chiropractic Lifestyle Revolution. I saw podcasts, I saw the online events, I saw people bringing thousands of people that we got to get the principle out there. So this came through
Right.
divine intervention.
No, and it feels so good. It feels so fun. Like it feel like again, I use the word feeling, right? It's not a knowing, it's a the feeling creates the knowing. Like, oh, this is so right. This is
Yeah, because
exactly what
then
it
you have
is.
inspiration, right?
Right.
You have to find energy. You want the
Now,
energy.
the act of doing the thing is the reward.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. The act of doing that thing is where the is the like it's like a positive reinforcement. It doesn't stop.
Absolutely. The pleasure of action is the reward.
There you go. Yeah, it's not the end vision goal you have, right?
Yeah.
It's the act, like the act of doing this podcast is the reward because it's the dream and the inspiration. It's actually a thing. It's tangible.
Yeah.
It's became something. So that's a beautiful place to be.
Absolutely. It's a very loving place. And so that's another thing we talk about. The vibratory frequency of love and joy manifest miracles. When you look on David Hawkins, I mean, we could go on forever. Map consciousness, and you look, what's the physical
Right.
manifestation of joy? Transfiguration. When you
Yeah.
are in the internal state of joy, you can change physical matter.
Right.
And so that's the key is if I ever have a challenge I want to solve, I intentionally put myself in a higher state so a higher, more divine answer can come through me. And what's the answer? It's always a loving answer. So one question I ask is, God, show me how you would see this problem.
Right.
And then always the most loving answer comes out, and then miracles happen.
You just absolutely answered my next question because Fred, when everybody's watching this right there, and I said, listen, what is the definition of love or your experience of love? I think all of us carry a certain baggage with it, and it tends to be conditional in some way, shape, or form. There's some type of or like, what does unconditional love feel like? I mean, just like, so that love was just like when we think, okay, the highest vibration of love is, but some of us or some people like I just like that question. You said, God, how would you answer this in your love? Like, because that's really the only, like, I need God's definition of what the love is. Because if I said, like, my definition I came to eventually was unconditional appreciation, no matter, like, unconditional appreciation of someone. So, but a lot of us have different, we never define love, number one, or we all could literally have a different perspective of what love is. So that vibration of love, right? What is that thing? So it's how would you, yeah, how would you coach getting there to where we all like this is really the truest form of love again, because again, we all have we'll have an experience of love, but so all of our experience with loves could be very different.
Well, and you know this too. It's like your life is really a result of your belief systems. So if your belief systems aren't getting what you want, will you be able to look at them and decide, I need to change my belief systems? Because most of your belief systems are learned. And then, also how we love is learned. Most of how we love is learned. It's from our
Right.
childhood experiences. Well, the 5 love languages, no, that's how you give, that's exercising love. And we say, well, I'm these 2 languages. No, you're not. You're all 5. All those are just how you learn to love. So how do we get to a true state of love? I mean, I always go back to the healed system. It starts with honor God within yourself. Until you can actually understand and experience your spirit, experience God within you, to be able to experience what it likes to raise your consciousness and feel absolute divine love in you, then you just know what you've learned. So I'm just going to tell one real quick
Yeah.
story. And you read this when in Exercise Love Yourself and
Yeah.
Others. When I started that chapter, first line, if I asked you if you love yourself, what would you say? Now you would have said, and I said, I think I'm pretty cool. I love
Yeah.
myself. You would have said that at
Yeah.
2600, right? Operating out of fear. And then I said, if I asked you, do you love yourself like God loves you? What would you say?
No.
Well, I
Yeah.
stopped writing then. I'm like, because I didn't
Yeah.
write that line. That line came through.
Right.
And then I'm
Yeah.
like, I have no idea. It took me 1 year to write one chapter because I had to experience it. And if that's all you do in life, then you begin to know who you're created to be, and you have a new life.
Right.
Thing in the world will reflect that.
Yeah, I associated love with efforting.
Yeah, what you do, right? Your accomplishments.
Yeah, efforting,
Yeah.
earning it. Like that's why when I was sitting in prison and people, I was getting help, this and that, you're almost like, it was so weird. It's like, I'm so grateful and I feel this love, but there's this part of me that's like, watch this, man, I'm not like it can't, I'm not deserve. You want to be almost like there's like I'm not deserving. There's that resistance of like I'm not deserving, and then your mind's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like it's so I really it was really exposing, like you said, those inner deep roots. Like, well, where'd this not deserving thing come from? Like, what's like what? Where'd this purgatory punishment? I got to punish myself to love. Like so, Fred, like it really brought out a lot of other things. So it's like, wow, and it just showed you, it's like, where did this come from, and how do we heal it?
Well, here's the beauty of what you're doing in the brilliance. What you did was you realize, wow, I'm not my mind. We've talked about this before.
Right, right.
You say, hey, I don't need my mind right now. Thank you. So you observed your thoughts. So you realize I'm the consciousness before my thoughts.
Yes.
So when my thoughts have fear and fear is learned, I'm not that fear. And that's the problem is we think we are our thoughts and we're not. And so I didn't believe I answered the question, but when you feel love inside you and you realize I'm not my thoughts, I'm the person, I'm the beingness observing the thoughts, then you can separate yourself. That means you can move to your heart and then you begin to experience a greater level of love.
Right.
And
No.
that's the brilliance in that, because that was a one-liner. I actually think I don't know if I put it in the book or not, but I remember you saying that. You would say, because of our brain, our basic instinct is survival, right? And our brain loves certainty. It loves what we know. Then when you had a thought of fear, you would say, I don't need you right now. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you
Like,
could release
yeah.
your thoughts.
Yeah. Like, the fear was like, thank you for protecting me, because it's a protective mechanism,
Right.
but I don't need you right now. I don't need you anymore. Like, I'm not, a bear's not chasing me. Like it's just like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't need your protection. Because I realize, like, I got to love it, because you're looking at everything so through love. So the way my parents raised me, they loved me. So remember, they weren't doing things to harm me. They loved me. That's why they overprotected me. That's why I had I got my first bike at 10 and had training wheels on it, because my dad didn't want me to learn to ride a bike, so he didn't want to get hurt. So they were protecting me. Like, and that protection came out of fear. So it was just a protective mechanism that we don't need anymore. So I realized, because when I used to speak, Fred, it's like I would have that fear and I'd be like, well, I'm okay. I'm safe. Like, yeah, like, why do I feel like an animal's not chasing me? Like, I would like go to examine it out, like, what the hell is wrong with me? Why am I scared? I'm like, I don't need this anymore. And that was just kind of my mantra to, was like, yeah, I'm safe. I'm not, I don't need fight or flight right now.
Yeah, that is a game changer. And then you realize, like I said before, you're the beingness, you're the consciousness that exists
Yeah.
before the thoughts. And that
Yeah.
takes discipline to get to that point, and it takes a lot of wisdom. Love is who you are, fear is learned. And
Right.
once you get to that point, then if you can have moments of that divine love. Now, when you ask for it, you'll have experiences because you were healed. You shared with me this
Yep.
experience, right? And I think it was Joel Osteen's, like you had a spirit come upon you. And in that
Mhm.
minute you were healed, man, you feel this
Instantly
divine love. Yeah,
done.
instantly. And you felt divinity moving through you.
Yeah. The hot lava for sure.
Yeah, now when you memorize that and you think, wow, I can take myself to that moment and experience it. Now, what is that? Is it watching your child being born? Is it
Right.
what are those moments? And you just memorize those in your nervous system. I had 3 out of body experiences
Right.
with Christ. And so I remember what his divinity felt like. And then it's like, wow, that's who I am. He didn't come, religion says he came to show us who he is, and he came to show us who we are. That's why he said, it says in the Bible, if you believe in me, and I like to change that to, if you believe like me,
Right.
then you can do all these things and greater. That's who we are.
Fred, again, like when you just mentioned it, it's like, what was that moment where it's like, okay, I got to another point in my life where I got to a complete surrender, or just like, Dude, it was bad, Fred. So it's like it was so bad, it was to the point where it's like trust fall. Yeah, so yeah, so yeah, that's very cool that you said that. And for everybody watching, hopefully you get this in the moment. Then so the two times in my life where I literally had to let go of control and surrender were those the two moments of radical, like it was we call it was a radical intervention for sure. When I was sick, I was like, Fred, I had to surrender. And then I was in a place where I couldn't control anything. Yeah, I had to surrender. And that's when some huge evolutionary shifts happened. So when I was sick, it just didn't come with a healing, but it actually was a real quick evolutionary shift to lead me into becoming a chiropractor, and so, and this evolutionary shift that happened, I literally felt like I came back to a different dimension. Like when I came back, just everything felt somewhat off. So I know there was a massive shift for something great. Like, I mean, greatness will come out of it, and we'll get to tell this, I'll be able to tell the story, give me a couple of years and we'll see that. But you're right. That was a 2000. So what got me to that point was for me to a point of surrendering and getting out of the way. But Fred, man, it took me like totally to a point of hopelessness and surrender. Like no one could help me with the sickness and being a point where like I'm in no control. Who's out there helping me? I have nothing. I don't have Fred. I couldn't, in my genius of genius, figure out an escape. Like I
Yeah.
was like Fred. Like so, it was the point of absolute. I got nothing. And man, it's the things shift pretty. And yeah, right. And then things shifted um pretty drastically.
And I'm well, I just turned 62, so I've
No way.
like 20 more years of
Wait
pain.
a second. I only aged a couple. There's no way.
Yeah. And so, that's the whole thing is like when you're talking about surrender, man, for people that are used to doing it, that's like the contradiction of a lifetime. Yet that's where our power is. So now I read the law of detachment every morning, and I start part of my morning rituals is where I'm surrendering my day. I have a plan, I know what I'm going to do, but I'm open to God's plan. I have to be flexible through the day, and several times I have to remind myself, just let go. Just let go and enjoy the process.
I
We have a plan,
know.
we have a vision. So
I know. Like absolutely, dude. Because now that you give me like, yeah, it's like right. Because sometimes, I notice now, having, an amazing relationship and stuff like that. It's like, when Chris was by himself, I could be in that focused doing mode because it makes me feel certain. And here she just wants to have fun, and she's very playful. She's beautiful, very playful, beautiful, and fun. And it just like, man, I found that stuff getting in the way of that. And that's like working. I'm like, oh, I don't want this. Again, remember, I'm emotional about something that isn't really there. Now it's affecting other people. So I mean, it's great to have a helpmate, but those things you just said were absolutely correct.
yeah,
Absolutely correct.
it's so funny because I mean, talk about discipline, right? Like I knew in your first marriage, and that's I've done a few times too. First being the key word. And so like the discipline, and I find myself getting into that now, man. And Molly's like, remember quality
Yeah.
time, like, babe, you're right. And she's so playful, like they
Yeah.
they remind us of that other side of us that, we can be so determined and stuff. But the playfulness is really the enjoyment. I mean, we get it out
Yeah.
of purpose and we get it out of that, yet we gotta be playful too, They remind us of
Yeah.
what's important.
Childlike. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely
Absolutely.
great. So, I mean, that's, no, but that was extremely helpful. So I'm sure we got some good stuff out of it. I'm sure the things that I expressed, I guarantee every chiropractor would nod their head and be like, yeah, I've heard this or felt this in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
And, just to get back, like, who am I to people? And I realized, like, what, I'm someone, and then I realized I looked at the wall. It's like, what I'm like Tony Stark and John Wick. I always use in that hero course. I'm like, you're attracted to things that have certain characteristics. And so I'm like, well, why I'm in a more of a John Wick mood? It's like, because I fight for people. Iron Man, they fought for people. And I like that in a good way. Like I was like, I was on your side. I would say, like, I understand your frustration. That's bullshit. Let's take charge. Let's start living life on our terms again. Yeah. So I was the Cairo that, I was in your corner, and they knew that in this getting well. And it's like the cool thing with the John Wick thing is like that. I don't know if you saw part 4. That dude is relentless. So it's like, so I was a very relentless, like committed, focused, and dedicated. So it's like uh, basically a decision. Like I was able to make a decision, and I was committed to the decision. I found, Fred, in the last couple of years, I changed. I would make a decision and change it very easily, and I just felt like I kept on going in circles. Versus, when you commit to a decision, whatever's standing in front of you, the ups and the downs, it doesn't matter, because you have your decision focused on what you were inspired to do, and not, well, it's tough or it's easy, and allowing that to dictate um your path. So it's like I realized these little things are just getting back on purpose or fun. The purpose was always there, and just realizing, like I said, that the only thing I could tell you is like I realized that I was emotional over things for not the reason I thought. If I said, Fred, I'm upset because of A, B, C, and D, it was never about those reasons. I was emotional because I was seeing things that truly weren't there. It was an illusion.
Absolutely.
But let me tell you, the illusion could be so strong uh, that it could fool the greatest. It fools many of us, versus having that. That's why I said the heal thing. Just having, the power source, having the thing that we could reset to or get to true north on. Um, I think is tremendous. Like this was very helpful to me for today as well. And every time we talk, that's why it's nothing scripted, but like we have to get into these conversations to gain awareness. And sometimes when you told me, Fred, like all in a split second in a split moment of a certain awareness, everything could shift. Everything could shift
You
because
part
it,
the veil. It's
huh?
like parting a veil, man. The whole
Oh
universe.
yeah, just like shocking. And it's, but it's being receptive to that. So dude, I always love these conversations, and hopefully everybody, I know everybody watches, you got something out of it.
Oh
And
yeah. Well, we could go on and on and
yeah,
on, man. And I love that about you. It's great to
yeah,
connect with you. And
yeah,
I think this is probably a great point to say, if you take there's so many one-liners and so many principles and
yeah,
thoughts there that if you can just take one out of like the 25 that were
yeah,
given, they're already life-changing, will help you fulfill your purpose on a higher level, really come to
yeah.
know who God created you to be, why you're here, and he will guide your path. And really, what it is, it's about surrender, man. Know that God is your source. You're dealing with God principles. You're dealing with the universal laws in chiropractic. The world, be a shining light, and the world will show up. When you become a healer and a shining light, the world's going to show up to be healed. And
Okay, and Fred,
that's really the message. What's that?
and one closing statement, and you could just, this could be something for the next time. So we're spiritual beings that we chose to be on this physical experience, right? And this physical realm we're at has rules and has laws. So it's like we're playing the game. We played the game on the rules, right? It's in the laws that are set. Um, so that being said, you know, basically what I'm saying is like, so how do you find the balance of, yes, spiritual being, but the globe we're on does have its set of, like, it's a game that has its, not, I don't want to say it's a game, guys, but it's like it has its own set of rules and laws. So, and sometimes those rules and laws, so for instance, like I said before, like finances, money is one of the playing pieces on this planet, right? It could do a lot of great amazing things. And a spiritual being, though, we're more than just our material things. So how do you find that balance where we're spiritual beings? We get to play on this playground, but it's like a game. If I put Yahtzee or Candyland or Clue, it's like each game has its own set of directions and rules. So how do you navigate through this plane and its rules, yet still being connected to your spiritual being? You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's chiropractic principle, man.
Yeah.
Universal intelligence, another word for God, and innate intelligence is another phrase. We're created in likeness and image. Once you ground on that principle, everything changes. Everything moves to the next level. So we part the veil of our humanity. We see the divinity, and then we see, when we can walk, and then be able to access that
Right.
consciousness, walking with one foot in the spirit world, one
There
foot in
you go.
the physical world.
Got it. Great answer. Great. Thank
There you
you.
go. All right. Hey, love you, man. So
Love you
appreciate
too, man.
it. And hey, please share these. This is a revolution. We need your participation and contribution. Let's get the chiropractic, more chiropractors on the principle, creating lifestyle patients, getting the principle out there, because we are here now to create heaven on earth. And that's with the chiropractic lifestyle. All right. Love you guys. Peace.
Love you guys. Thank you.